In this movie, I'll show you how you can adjust the vertical alignment of text on a path, as well as its orientation and character spacing, all using a single command. Now, as you can see, by default, Illustrator goes ahead and aligns the baseline of the text to the path outline. Now, most of the time, that's going to work out really well. But in our case, the original circle cuts halfway through the brown portion of the logo. So we need to scoot the text down. If you're working along with me, just go ahead and press Control-A or Command-A on the Mac to select both text objects. As you can see, the art layer, which contains the logo elements, is locked. Now I'll go up to the Type menu and choose Type on a Path. And you can see the submenu begins with a bunch of orientation settings. Those same settings are made available by this command right here, Type on a Path Options. So go ahead and choose that command, and then turn on the preview checkbox so we can see what we're doing. Notice Align to Path right there. Those are your vertical alignment options. By default, it's set to baseline. So as I say, the baseline of the text is aligned to the path outline. But you could change it to something like Ascender so that the text drops down dramatically. Or you could change it to Descender so the text jumps all the way up. So in other words, either the Ascenders, that is the top of the tallest characters, or the Descenders, which would be the bottom of the character set, drop down from the baseline, are aligned to that path outline. We don't want either of those options. I just want you to see that they're there. We want center. So we end up centering the text on the path outline like so. These effect options are your orientation settings. By default, effect is set to rainbow, which is going to be what you want 99% of the time. But you also have these other settings that you can choose from, including skew, which is probably the second to most useful. But then you've got these other ones that you can play with as well. So, of course, I invite you to go ahead and experiment with those. But we're going to stick with rainbow. And then finally, you've got this spacing setting. This one's a little difficult to understand. The idea is that you want to space your text differently for those times when you encounter convex areas, like at the top here, or concave areas as down at the bottom. So your text is going to tend to spread when it goes over these humps, and then when it goes into the valleys, it's going to tend to bunch up. So the idea behind spacing, and you can see if you click the down pointing arrowhead, that you have a lot of presets to choose from. But let's say I go with the biggest setting. Now, you would think 36 would spread out everything, but it's only going to spread the text in the concave areas, in the valleys, and it's going to bunch up the text along the hills, if you will. So as soon as I choose 36, Tortellini is going to spread apart, but Tiger is going to bunch together. And you can enter a higher value if you want to. I could change this to 100, for example, and that really spreads Tortellini and really squishes Tiger together. Now, while that might work well for you when you're creating text along a rolling path outline, in our case, it's not going to do the trick because both Tiger and Tortellini were a little squished before we started. So I'm going to go ahead and change that spacing value back to auto so Illustrator can just go ahead and do its standard thing. And in our case, we're not seeing a difference. Let me see if I change this back to 0 here and then switch back to auto and press the tab key. Well, that's the best I'm going to do. Now, you also have the option of turning on the flip checkbox, which is going to flip the text upside down. So pretty self-evident, but I want you to know it's there. Anyway, I'll turn flip off, and I'll go ahead and click OK in order to center that text vertically on the circle. Now, as I say, we still need to spread our characters apart. So I'm going to bring up my character panel, which is available to me over here in the icon column. You can also choose character from the window menu or just press Control-T or Command-T on the Mac. And I'm going to change this tracking value here to 80, which is going to spread out the text nicely. And I'm also going to change the horizontal scale value to 130 in order to achieve this effect here. Now, while that works great for the word tiger, it doesn't work so well for Tortellini. So I'll press Control-Shift-A or Command-Shift-A on the Mac in order to deselect the artwork. And then I'll click along the bottom portion of the circle to select it. And let's adjust some settings here. I'll start by changing the horizontal scale value to 120. And that ends up achieving a much better looking effect, I think. And then I'll reduce the tracking value to 60 in order to create this final version of the logo. And that's how you change the vertical alignment as well as the orientation and character spacing of text along a path outline.